Hi everyone, let's try this again. I am Michelle, your host for Together We Are One. We thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. The month of February is all about love and love lessons during our childhood, and what does that really mean? So I am Michelle.
I'm Jean.
I'm Esi.
I'm Brenda.
And together we are one. We thank you for joining us. We're going to ask you to continue to share and invite others continuously, because someone needs to hear about today's testimony. We've shared with you that Together We Are One is all about being real, raw, and transparent. This is not something that we plan out. This is something that we just come and share with you in the hope that you would be able to relate to it, in the hope that you will know that you are not alone in whatever situation you're going through. With that being said, we also, when there's a need, we provide resources through our Facebook page so that you can get the help that you might need. Our website is under construction, but we will also be having links and more information there as well. With that being said, I'm going to have you listen to our guest speaker, and she's going to share a little bit about what love was for her growing up, right? Because many of us don't even know what love is. No one taught us, what's love, right? When we're young, what does love mean? What does rejection mean? What does trauma mean? So many of us perceive sometimes that we thought that love is like, I love you, so I'm feeding you, or I bought this house, I love you, or I'm jealous of you, so I have to beat you, and that's love. That's not love. But a lot of times we have family that have not been there in our lives, and we're missing that love, so we feel love less, right? So today our guest speaker, Jean Buckwell, is going to share a little bit, and then we're going to go around the panel and share some more. And keep sharing. Thank you.
Sure. So, you talk about, what is love? And I think when I think back about, growing up, my first memory of feeling loved and cared for, I did feel loved and cared for, from my parents and my family. Being from, my heritage is from Guam, and it's a very loving heritage, and there's a lot of family that's very close. And so my first memories of family, I did feel love. I did feel cared for. There was always family outings and all, cousins. Both my parents come from large family, like 7 brothers and sisters. So I had lots of cousins and uncles and aunts, and we were always together. So I never really felt unloved then as a child. I felt cared for. And so, I think that as I was getting older, my parents divorced when I was young, probably around 7 or 8. And that's the first time where I felt kind of vulnerable, I guess, or felt sad in my life. And I remember it vividly. My dad is the one who's told me that, my parents were getting a divorce. I didn't really know what that meant, but I knew that I was sad about it. And so, life went on. My father moved back to California, and we stayed in Connecticut. And growing up, I kind of just went along with my life, but I still felt loved and cared for from afar from my father, or, from my mother. She was a single mom working. But I think as you get older, like many of us do, you're going through your teenage years, and you don't really understand what love is really. And so, like many of your guests that you've had before, they're looking for love to fill that hole that maybe you don't even know is a hole.
Right.
You're just kind of going along. You want to feel liked by your peers. You want to, feel validated. And so I think during that time it was like searching,
Did you, when you say you felt love, what was love to you then? In what way were you loved?
Yes, so I felt loved by, I was cared for. We weren't rich, but I always had food. I always had clothes. We went shopping, for school year, and there was always food on the table. I felt cared for and loved by my family, and by my cousins or my grandmother, or
Did your family ever show you, or at home, you know, embrace with you and say, you know, I love you, or you're special, or, you know, show you love? Not just say it, because it's easy for someone to say I love you, but show you, you know, I'm here for you, I'm listening to you, you matter. Or
maybe not so much when I was younger. Now we say I love you, you know, we're on the phone or we're together. But I think maybe not so much then. They just assumed, I think, you know, they probably showed love. They would say, you know, they would give me, you know, say, oh, you're a good mom, or you're, you know, you're a great whatever, but they never really said the words, I love you.
I love you.
Yeah.
Did you think that that made an effect when you became a mother? Or was it easy for you to tell your children that you love them, or you didn't?
No, it was easy for me to say that I love you to my kids when they were, I think especially when they're young, you know, you always want to, you know, you care for them, you love them, you protect them, you know, like all
Now,
those.
when your parents split, did you feel at any point that if they loved me, they would have stayed together? Because we know that, or maybe you can share that when your parents split, your dad left and your brother left with your dad,
Yes.
and you stayed with your mom, and that was a decision made by...
I think that was a decision, I don't know exactly, it was a mutual, their divorce was very amicable. I mean, you know, my cousin still called my dad uncle. It wasn't like an awful divorce, but no divorce I don't think is fun or good. But they, you know, when my dad left, very shortly after, maybe a year after, my mother, I think, decided that my brother needed his father. You know, we were on Connecticut, California. That's not easy to do. And when I had children, I would think like, oh my God, how did my mother do that? I could never split up my kids like that. You know, but when you're, you know, young, you don't think about things like that until you have your own children.
So, in your eyes back then, when you became a teenager and your dad was not in your life the way you would have liked him to be, how did that love relationship affect you?
Yeah, so I loved my dad. My dad was my hero. But even though my dad was not physically there, you know, he was my dad, but he wasn't there for me growing up every day. You know, I was going to school, or, you know, he missed out on a lot of things. And I missed out on having him, you know, there. So I think subconsciously, and I think a lot of panelists, you know, have gone through this, a lot of women have, where your father is there but not there for you. So you search for that love, or wanting to feel that love of a man, you know, your father. And so, you know, you do that in relationships, or you try to fill again that hole or that void.
Did that affect you when you had a relationship with your boyfriends, or, you know, when you got married?
Yeah, I think
confusing love with...
Yeah, I think that just even the attention of a boy was something that made you feel good. You know, that you think maybe that was going to help. So my very first boyfriend, you know, who gave me attention and, you know, doted on me and put me on a pedestal, you think, okay, he loves me. You know, that kind of thing.
And what happened with that relationship?
Oh my goodness. Well, we only have enough, you know.
But just like, you know,
yeah,
because you thought that he loved
short,
you.
I was very young. Ended up in California. I was very young. I was 21. Had a baby, married, owned a business, owned a home in Southern California at the age of 21. Wow. So I married for all of the wrong reasons. I didn't marry for love. I married because I thought it was the right thing to do. I was kind of pressured by my family. He's a great provider. Look, you own a business, you own a home. Why don't you get married? You know, we had a baby before we got married. So he said, you know, you have a baby. When are you getting married? You know, so there's a lot of expectation. And so it just kind of fell into place. So again, married for the wrong reasons, even though I said, you know, well, he's providing for me. He must love me. You know, this is
what love is.
Is what love is. Yeah, I'm provided for.
And how did that affect you when you realized this is not love? This is manipulation, being a
Yeah,
narcissist?
so in all of that, yeah, there was a lot of other things going on, not to get into detail, but it was not a very healthy relationship, and I really lost myself. You know, when I was, before all of this happened, I was going to school, I was working, I was going to be independent, live with my cousin in an apartment, and then this happened, and all of that was gone. So as I was married, had a business, owned a home, had a baby, I lost Jean, like who I was. And even at the time, even before 21, you don't know who you are. You're still trying to understand that. So it was kind of like I was just like going through the motions. This is what I have to do. It's expected of me. So, yeah.
So you lost yourself before you even got to know yourself.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. Can you say that again?
Oh, I said so she lost herself before she actually got to know herself.
Right, and that happens to a lot of us, right? We lose ourselves before knowing who we are.
Right.
And then we get caught up and lost in with other relationships or with other people, what we think we should be like, but we don't even know who we are. We're still trying to figure who we are.
So young.
And so young. At what point in time in your life you thought to yourself, this is not love?
Yeah, I mean, there was some emotional manipulation and abuse, and I remember I was a big runner, so I would run with a bunch of friends, and you know, I would see other relationships or marriages that my friends had, and I said, you know, this isn't love. Like, why? How can he love me like this? Can you just love me unconditionally? I just want to, you know, everybody wants to be loved for who they are and not have to walk on eggshells or be something that you're not. So that's when, you know, I just couldn't do it. I was miserable. I felt like I was in a prison. I mean, again, this is from my perspective.
Right.
You know, I felt, for me, I was in a prison and I just wanted out. I just wanted out. I lost myself. I was running. I was a runner physically. I found my solace or my catharsis in running. I was able to run out the door. Nobody could tell me how to, you know, run. Nobody could tell me how fast I could go, how long I could go, and it was my time. So I kind of lost myself in running, and that was kind of my way of dealing with things. But after, you know, you can only run so much, and you still have the problem at home. So that's when I said, you know, I've got to do something. And then unfortunately, it was an awful divorce. I mean, no divorce is fun, but it was just one of the
hardest things
you've
had to endure.
It was a very dark time.
It was
a very dark time.
And how, by that situation happening, how did that affect? Did it affect your love and relationship with your children? Because now you're trying to find yourself again.
Yeah, I think that you know, looking back, once I divorced, again, it was very difficult. You know, it was a long process. My children were at an age, they were boys, and they were at an age where they needed their father. Unfortunately, when I divorced, my ex decided he was just going to leave completely without a word. So he just left out of their lives, and they never heard from him again. So I was a single mother in a very affluent town, trying to make ends meet, raising two, you know, school-age boys, middle school and elementary school, and it was tough. It was tough, you know. My ex had said to me, he said, you're never going to make it on your own. You're going to end up moving back to California, living with your dad. You're never going to be able to afford this house, you know. To me, that was the impetus to, yes, I am. And I did. You do what you have to do for my children. But at the same time, I'm still looking for that, to fill that void of that love, the real love that I want. You know, I would cry out and I'd say, why can't somebody just love you unconditionally, you know?
Have you felt that you ever known what unconditional love is at this point in time in your life?
At that point in time, no. But I wanted that love. I wanted that unconditional love, and I would say, God, what? And just going through experiences and learning, God showed me what that was, how that was.
And how was it?
So after I divorced, I was in a couple of relationships, and again, thinking that somebody's going to provide for you, they're caring for you, that's love. That's not necessarily true, because there's, you know, he taught me that love is selfless. If somebody loves you, they're going to give you something or care for you and not expect something back. That's what God taught me. And ultimately, he says, you know, your children are going to disappoint you. Your spouse, your boyfriend is going to disappoint you. Your children are going to disappoint you. Your friends are going to disappoint you. The only one that you can ever trust, will never disappoint you, is God. That's what I learned.
So, Esi, when you hear Jean speak about her testimony and sharing, what do you get from it? And by the way, you look absolutely beautiful.
She does.
A queen right here, princess. You know, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Isn't she beautiful? She's beautiful. We love her.
When my mind just continuously goes back to when she said she lost herself, and how, you know, she lost herself before she even got to know herself, and, you know, in the pursuit of trying to find love. And, you know, when I think of love, I think of Jesus, how he came here to show us love, you know. So in my mind, I'm thinking love comes to you. You don't go out there to look for love.
Yes.
So my mind was just making some connections. Like, if I'm going out there to look for love when I don't even really know what love is, that makes me more prone to lose myself in the process of all those things. So why don't I just sit, relax, and let love come to me? Because love is selfless, and it pursues, you know. So I don't know if I'm making sense. But
Yes, it does make sense.
Connections.
It's true, and you know, for those that read the Bible, right? Because this is not about religion. We are faith based, and we believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And none of us were born like, oh my God, I have it all together. We still don't have it all together, but it was through a relationship with our Father, through our Heavenly Father, with Jesus Christ, that we were able to draw closer and really know the true meaning of love. And last week, I shared with you, and I'll share with you in a little bit, but about what love is and what love is not, right? Because our perception of love is not what God's love is like. And so we get caught up. Brenda, I'd like for you to share, how can you relate with Jean?
It's like she said, you know, wanting to be loved in the sense where you're loved unconditional. As I look back over my life, even through my childhood, a lot of disappointment and rejection came from the men in my life, like my father, my, you know, boyfriends in the past, my husband, ex-husband. And so for me, I've always had this, you know, this wanting to always be loved. Like, I just want to be loved because I knew that it was always missing somehow. And so I can relate in the sense where, you know, you lose yourself. You completely lose yourself, especially when you don't even know how to love yourself, you know? And just wanting that, you know, you yearn to have that unconditional love be given to you, because you also give it out and you want to receive it back too. So.
Why can't you love me the way that I love you? You know, why is that so hard?
Right.
Yeah.
So I know that the two of you happen to have two boys.
Yeah.
Do you believe that your children, in their mind, know what love is, or has it been shared with them, you know, this is what love looks like and this is what love does not look like? Or, you know, I thought that this is what love was and look what I went through, or I lost myself through this. Just to teach them, don't lose yourself for anyone else. You know what I mean? Has that ever come to your mind?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, when, as my children are older, so, you know, this happened years ago, but there's been conversations with my sons about, you know, well, first of all, how to treat a woman,
Right.
You know, and what love is and isn't. And I think that they've experienced that just by seeing what happened to me, but also just I see that with the friends that they've had, you know, maybe girlfriends or friends that they've had, and it's just showing them through my friends or through family or whatever, you know, they know what love is. Well, at least I know one of them does.
Yes, one of them. We know that her baby knows what really love is. But, you know, and I've known Jean, Lord Jesus, for a long time. for like 21 years.
Yeah, so you came into my life when I was going through that dark time
Yes.
for my divorce. I was the very beginning of all of that struggle is when I met you.
Mhm.
So
So I was able to witness what she went through, and it was very, very, very difficult for her. It was not easy, not for her, not for her children. And I think that when we go through separations and divorces, that we do kind of lose ourselves. And even though we want to love our children and give them our undivided attention, we're not always mentally there,
Right.
because we're going through, I have to make sure I work and I provide for my kids,
Gotta pay
right?
the bills,
I got to pay the bills. I got to make sure that my kid eats, that they have the right clothing. So for us, that's love, right? But that's not really, it is love, but at the same time, that's not really the definition of love is. If you think about love, it's kind, it's gentle, it's patient, it's not easily angered, it's not boastful, it's not selfish. But even as mothers, when we do these things and we lose ourselves through a divorce, we get easily angered.
Well, yeah, especially when you have teenage boys. I mean,
Right.
What they're, of course you get easily.
Right.
We get easily angry. So that's not love, right? We become selfish and be like, why can't you do this for me? Now we're thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
I did this for you. Why
Yes,
aren't you doing
yes,
it?
Right.
absolutely.
So, again, that's not love. Or we remind them, you did this and you did that and you said this and you said that. That's not love.
Right.
But we get caught up into those, we get caught up into our feelings, into the flesh.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're human beings, not human feelings. But we do operate by our feelings most of the time.
Yes. And when you're going through divorce, there's a lot of anger and emotion.
Right.
On both sides, for the mother and the children. And I remember my son, one of them they're both very different. One wears his heart on his sleeve and will tell me exactly what he thinks. I hate you. This is, when it's your fault, or, just very, and there's anger involved, and so there was a time where one of my sons was just so angry and just, a lot of, whatever. Now, I will tell you, and this is a testimony
Yes.
for him, is that he gave his life to Christ. The moment he gave his life to Christ, and it was like a 360. Like he would, literally the next day, he was just thanking me for praying for him, or thanking me for all kinds of things. He'd write me notes, thank you for my braces, or he'd write me a note,
Yeah.
I know this, thank you for, paying for these, or thank you for, I hope you have a great day, Mom, I love you, notes it. And it was just the most amazing transformation. Now, his walk, and thank you, God, you always pray that your children will have a relationship with God, but,
Right.
Can you share, if you don't mind, what led your son to have that 360? Because I think some people need to hear this. The reason why I believe it's important to understand where this came from, that her son, who was in the dark, was angry, was bitter, all of a sudden switched.
Yeah, so in the physical, he wasn't necessarily in the dark, but there was a lot of, so he was in high school, he was a football player, very popular, lots of friends, and he was talking about, I remember getting ready for work, and he would talk to me about, there was the time when the Luminata was a big thing, on, I don't know if you can explain it.
Music and
The music and the music industry and all of this. So he was intrigued by it. Like every day he'd say, oh, it's on, Mom, you gotta watch this, it's on, and I'd be like, here I am in my own self. Okay, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. And every day, like for a week, Mom, you gotta listen to this Illuminati, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I have no idea. Well, one night, and again, people are gonna think this is crazy.
No, it's not crazy, it's true.
One night, it was probably 11 o'clock, he comes to my room, him and his girlfriend, and he's like, Mom. And I'm like, what? He said, I feel like my soul is being taken. And I just hugged him, and I just said, you know what, you are a child of God? No, your soul is not. And we just prayed and prayed and prayed. And he said that I just felt a sense of relief, like he could breathe again. And I think it was just like, the enemy trying to infiltrate his mind, and cause fear and anxiety and all of this other stuff. And he was just so, he was just hugging me like a little boy. Didn't want me to leave his side, hold his hand, and just pray for him all night. The next day, he was reading the Bible. He went to church and he gave his life to Christ, and his life turned around.
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
So for your son to be able to come to you and express his emotions, so in like that manner, I mean, I'm not, I guess it's not really a question, but like it goes to show that he felt loved by you, even though he was angry at the fact that you got divorced.
Yes, right. He's acting out in anger. I knew as a mother that he still loved me, but I knew that he was very hurt also, and that there was anger there for him. But yeah, at that time I prayed all the time for my kids, and they knew that. They know just from my example that I would go to church, I would pray. To this day, he still tells me, "Thank you for praying for me." And he gave his life to Christ, and he was also baptized. And he sent me a picture. He's living in California. Sent me a text with a picture. "Hey, your boy got baptized last night." Oh my gosh!
Right.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
I was just like, God answers prayers. He's not perfect, but
Right.
he.
God is perfect. The son is
Yeah.
perfect.
I
just wanna clear that.
Yes, thank you.
But I think it's very important that you share that. And I want to go to Brenda. When you hear her testimony about her son, because I know that your sons are going through a challenging moment. They're trying to find themselves.
Right.
They're at a really challenging age. They're young, yet your oldest wants to be an adult, he thinks, because he's of age now.
Right.
And so a lot of times we, as parents, we have the fear, oh my God, I'm going to lose my child to the things of the world. Yet, I've tried to teach him about loving God. I've tried to teach, I pray for them. Yet all the things in the world, the society, the drugs, the addiction, trying to fit in, trying to be loved because maybe I don't feel loved at home because of what's going on, the divorce, the arguments. So, Brenda, when you hear Jean, what does that speak to your heart?
It's encouraging because for me, like seeing my son turn 18, it's difficult because you want to hold on to them. You don't want to let them go to the world because you're afraid that what you've taught them is not going to register in their mind and they're going to follow the right path. But I try to it's hard for me to trust God with them because it's been difficult to trust God in my own life because of all the disappointments that I've had in the past with the men in my life. So I'm trying to sit here and say, okay, Lord, he's your son, number one.
Yes.
And I have to, at some point, just let go.
Yes.
And trust that all my prayers will be answered for both of them. And that no matter what, I also think about myself when I was that age and how I was trying to find myself.
Yes.
And I grew up in church all my life too, and I know that those seeds were planted in me when I went to church, and my parents would speak to me about the word. So I know that there are seeds planted in them, and I now have to trust God to water that for them so that they could find their way to the Lord through my prayers. So it is encouraging to hear that because the enemy will lie to you and tell you your son will not come back, your son will not love you, your son will completely live his life and not, want to be around you anymore.
I will say that it's very hard to let go and let God. Even I think of it as, your kid for the first time going on the school bus, in kindergarten. It's like, oh my God, my eyes aren't on him 24/7. Now he's out there. You have to trust that he's going to come back safely back on the bus. Even all that crap that's out there, there's, middle-aged kids on the school bus with kindergartens, all the things that they're going to be exposed to.
Right.
But you trust and that bus is going to bring him back safely to you. So it's hard to let go, but it's very hard because you never want to see your kids fall. You never want to see them get hurt. You always want to protect them. But sometimes what we think protecting them is really stifling their growth. And you have to really trust that, your prayers, maybe not in your time, but they will eventually get answered.
Right.
Yes.
And that's one of the things about love. Love is trusting, right? So if we love the way the Lord loves us, we need to trust. First him, the Lord, and then trust what we have planted in our children.
Right.
right? Right, wrong, or indifferent, because none of us are perfect. None of us are
No.
perfect. We're not, you know, you can have a book on how to be a parent. Forget it.
Right.
It
Our
may
book is
teach
not
you
perfect.
and guide
Book is
you,
not perfect.
but it's not gonna be
It's a
how
guide.
the real world.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of giving you some tools what to expect and what not to. So it's not easy being a child. It's not easy being a parent. It's definitely not easy being a single mom. And so, you know, I know that when I went through it with my daughter, you know, I'm trying to make sure that I'm there for her. And then I'm going to have to go to work. I'm trying to go to school and get an education and work and make sure I can get a better job to provide for her so she doesn't go without, right? I mean, her father, thank God, was a great provider. But she lacked that. I don't want to say she lacked that love, not that we didn't love her or we didn't give her that love. We gave her a lot of love and attention. But she still somehow felt that because her father was not physically there. She missed a lot of that love,
Sure.
right? And whether our parents are there or not, they could be there physically, but if they're not there emotionally, there's a disconnect of love. There's a disconnect, and that makes us feel in our mind that we're not loved.
Right.
Right? So somewhere in her mind, even though her father would say, I love you, she couldn't understand, well, why can't you come see me more? Or why won't, when you tell me you're going to see me, you'll call me and say, I can't. Like, if you love me, you would come and be there, right? So for many of us, love is something different.
Yeah, and I would say also too, that, you know, people, because we're all different, we receive love differently and we give love differently. Like, for instance, my son, he feels love if I'm making him a meal, you know, or spending time with him. Or some people feel love if you give me a gift, I feel like, oh my God, he gave me that gift. That you know, and he knows that I love that, that's love because they're giving you a gift and it's showing love. So, you know, like those 5 love languages, you know.
Right.
You know, people, so even just understanding what my husband, what he likes, you know, whether it's words of affirmation or, you know, I think that's what his
Yes.
is, but
Yes. Men always want words of affirmation, you
Yeah.
know. Let me say something that makes you feel,
right,
Right,
yeah. But
you look sexy,
yeah.
thank you, you know, I appreciate you, I love you. Men
I
need
think
that.
she's talking about you, me.
No, this is really for all men.
Yes.
Men want that affirmation.
Absolutely.
They need it.
Yeah, they
It's
do.
something about them feeling, for them, that's love.
Right, I feel like a man because I did this for you and you said it, you know, publicly or whatever.
Or
Yeah,
you
that
told
makes
me, or you showed me
yeah,
that you love me and appreciate me. For women, it's more about intimacy. Are you paying attention? Are
Sometimes,
you,
you know, or physical touch, you know, hugging, you feel loved, you know, but, you know, or acts of kindness.
I was gonna say, for a lot of people, for men, they don't like to talk. But then Jean's husband loves to talk, so that wouldn't apply to him. But David, you know I love you. But I'm just saying, for the majority of the men, they don't like to talk. So
Well, talk and sharing your emotions. Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh, we want to
Yeah.
sit and we. Oh my gosh, you know, let me tell you about my emotions, and that's
Right.
like gloss. Oh my gosh, like oh gosh,
I don't
how
wanna
long
hear
is this
this.
gonna take?
Yeah.
You know?
that's funny because this morning I said to my husband, babe, come here. I think it was this morning or yesterday. He's like, oh my gosh, how long is this gonna take? And I'm like, well, he said exactly those words. And I was like, it doesn't matter because I'm your wife and you love me. So here, just give me a few
And
minutes.
I can picture him just sitting there listening to you.
Well, he's pretending like he's listening, right? He hears me. But that's what matters. If I see that you're paying attention to me, I'm happy with that.
Right, right.
And just like lately, I've been like, come on, we're gonna have lunch together, right? Because I'm here working and doing things, and
But
the
you're
Lord
not
is like,
together,
right.
yeah.
So the Lord's like, I need you to like give him more attention, you know, acknowledge him. So he'll like, what do you need me to sit here for? And I'm like, because we need to spend a little time together. Let's conversate. So the other day I said, wait until I'm done with my food before you go watching TV. To me, you're showing me love, and I just want you to acknowledge, just
Right.
spend this time with me, even if it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But make it the best 5 minutes, right?
Quality time.
Quality time. Because so often we don't take that time for the people that we love, even for our children sometimes.
Mhm.
We're too busy working.
Right.
We're taking care of the house. We're trying to go to school and get a better education. We're cleaning, we're cooking, we're doing all these things. So when is it time to show your child love? Oh, let me put you to sleep. Good night. I love you.
Right.
That's not what. Where is the love in all of that?
Right.
We need to be more mindful, right, and be more intentional to really show
Spend time.
love.
Yeah.
So we know that the word says love in action and not in words. A lot of times we say it, but we're not showing it.
Right.
Essie, I see you making some faces, and she's like, oh, okay. But you're hearing about 3 mothers, right? And Essie's one of our youngest panelists, and 3 mothers that have been through a divorce. And your mom was also a single mom. And you've seen that it has not been easy. Because honestly, I think that going through a divorce is one of the hardest things a person can go through. Especially if you're a mother. Especially if you want to love your child and want to have a family, want to have a great solid foundation for your kids, want that marriage to work. And you see all the opposite. That is, it's crushing your soul. It's crushing your spirit. It's crushing what you think should be love, right? Because it's very difficult to see your children not be brought up in a home with the way we should all be brought up, with father and a mother, and loving all each other.
Right.
Because it's not that you have a father and you have a mother, but the father and mother are not loving each other. It's through that love of loving each other that child's going to know and learn and grow to see how to love. You know what I mean? So you hear these perspectives. What does this say to you? Or what goes through your mind? Like for when God prepares you for your marriage and your future and your family, what would be the things that would matter to you the most, especially when it comes to love? You look like a doll. So beautiful.
Thank you. You make my head bigger than it already is. I tell myself that I love my mother dearly. She's worked very hard for the family, and she's the reason why we're in America. She's the reason why we are able to get our papers. I mean, God helped her, but like with her hard work and everything, the reason why we are comfortable is because of her hard work. And I greatly appreciate her for that. But, you know, sometimes I sit down and I think to myself, I don't want to make certain mistakes that she made, especially when it came to picking a partner. Because I remember I had a conversation with her not too long ago, and I won't get much into depth about it, but she did mention that, you know, there are some certain things that she saw in my father that I thought like it could have raised a red flag for her, but she overlooked it because it wasn't really much of a big deal back then. And I know that deep down in her heart, she kind of wishes she had taken it more seriously back then. I mean, I thank God she didn't, because I wouldn't exist. But I just don't want to repeat that same thing in my life. And not having my father around, now he unfortunately passed away, not knowing how to be loved by a man and how the head of the family is supposed to look like and act like, it's kind of made me double think twice when I'm talking to guys, or when guys approach me, or when I'm trying to get into a relationship with somebody. It makes me also doubt myself in a way. So it's something I need to work on also. Like that love that I never received as a child growing up, or that was lacking, is also affecting my judgment when it comes to picking partners.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that you don't want to make the same mistakes. You know, and talking with my son, who's in a relationship now with a wonderful girl. You know, they've been together for a couple of years, and I always joke about when are you getting married? But we'd have this conversation. He's like, "Mom, I just don't want to make the same mistakes." You know, so I think that's common, or at least normal, for you to say, "I don't want to be nobody wants to be in a divorce situation, so we're taking our time."
Right.
You know, we're doing this. We're not jumping in. You were 21 when you had a baby, or married, and we're not doing that. You know, so that's common, I think.
What would you what have you learned from what you heard today about what women have gone through and I'll have to say there's some men that, have been in our position as well. But from sitting here today, what have you learned as a, young woman, and what love is and is not?
Love does not make you feel lonely. Love does not make you feel like you have to put in double the work to get results. You always have to do more than you're supposed to. And when there is no love, it leads to a lot of detrimental happenings around you. And a sign of not having love is a sign of not having God, because God in essence is love. So not only is it an evaluation of whoever is not giving you that love, but it's also an evaluation of yourself.
Yes.
You attract who you are.
Right.
So if you're lacking that love in you, if you're lacking that godliness in you,
How are you going to expect that?
how are you going to expect that to be around you? So it also comes back to you, the individuals. Like, what am I lacking? How am I approaching these things? How is my judgment? How am I looking at things? Like, what did I come out of? What weapon? Like, no weapon, but what kind of what kind of protections or what kind of shields do I have on me, that I'm using to be able to navigate around the world? If I'm making any sense.
Yes.
Something, so it's just, I'm still thinking, I'm still building it in my head.
And the reason why I ask you is because, for our viewers, we want our viewers to be able to understand that this talk show is not about judging anybody, condemning, or embarrassing anybody. It's not about them. It's about our reality. It's about us speaking about it so that we can receive healing, so that, others can learn from it, so that others may know that they're not alone, because in whatever situation you're going through. I've been a divorced single mom. She's been a divorced single mom. She's been a divorced single mom. And it's very sad that we sit here and from all our panelists, the majority of the women have been divorced, single with moms.
Yeah, and I wouldn't wish divorce on anybody, whether it's amicable or not. I've had friends or people come to me and say, we're having a really bad time in our relationship. I'm really thinking about divorcing. And I just sit there and I listen and I say, what is it that, why are you getting a divorce? And they're always saying, well, he doesn't do this, or he didn't do that, or she's this, or she's that. And because of the experience that I've gone through, I think I ask them a question, well, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to, what selfless thing are you doing and not expecting back in return? Are you, giving this? And then I'll also say, if they have children, I say, because I know how it's affected my own children, I say, well, what would you rather say to your daughter or your son, 30 years from now? Oh, you talk about you're divorced. Or do you want to say, we stuck it out, we're still married after 30 years?
Right.
Thinking about what conversation you're going to have with your children.
And I think that, as long as there's no physical abuse, there's no domestic abuse, there's no mental abuse, right? Because there are some people that will
stay no matter what,
beat you with their words. And it's harder than
different.
someone hitting you.
Different.
And so we don't advise anyone. We advise, get some help, go see a therapist, get some counseling, go to your pastor, pray about it, pray. I shared last week about, some of the trials and tribulations that my husband, now that got ordained, we went through, and we prayed it out. I mean, I prayed it out, and then he kind of joined me after. But it's not the same for everybody. I'm grateful to God that, when I think of it today as I'm here, my parents stuck it out. And even when I was younger, I was like, why don't you just get divorced? I didn't understand, right? And my mother would be like, okay, if we get divorced, what's going to happen when you get married and leave? I'm going to be alone. Yeah. And I would tell her, well, you can get somebody, fine, or this or that. And I'm grateful to God. Right. I'm grateful to God that she didn't. Because today I get to see that through thick and thin, through the good and not so good, through rich and poor, sick and health, they made a vow to God And yes, there were many trials and tribulations, but that happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so grateful to God that God had them glued together. And today, you know, they are glued together. My dad just had an incident. My mom was so concerned. She wanted to be with him. He wanted to be with her. They're glued together. And to be able to witness, right, that a love can bring you to a place where nothing else can. And that can only be God through prayer. Because my mom prayed day and night. She just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And I'm glad because, you know, she taught me to do the same thing. You know, and prayer is so important in our lives. I want to share, you know, quickly. And I shared this last week, and I'm probably going to share this just to a reminder in case someone from last week didn't hear this. But it says to do everything with love, right? And it also says, let us not love with words or speech, but with action and in truth. It also says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment, right? And the one who fears is not made with perfect love. Now, if we're made with perfect love, that can only be from God. But many relationships out there, please listen, many relationships out there, many people are out there in a relationship, but out of fear. Mm-hmm. Is he going to hurt me? Is he going to beat me? Is he going to take my children away? Is he going to take my house away, or her, right? That's not love. That is control and manipulation. Again, get some guidance, get some help, you know, talk to a family resource, because that's not love. It says, you know, let love be without hypocrisy. You know, despise what is evil. So not getting back at each other, not being mean to one another, not reminding you of the wrong things that they said or that they did. If we say, you know, I'm sorry, I forgive you, then forget it. It's done and it's over with. Move forward. But not many people want to do that. And it says, do not overcome by evil, but overcome with what is good. Overcome with love, right? We know that love is being kind, it's being gentle, it's being patient. You know, we know that love less is being someone who is shunning you, is rejecting you, is disliking you. And in their mind, they might say, no, I love you, but I don't have time. That's not love. Let's start sharing and showing what love really is. Because we need, I don't care what anybody says, we all need to be loved. We all hunger for that love. Right? And many of us don't receive it. But no one has teaching us. Right? And so if we don't have a relationship with God, we will never know what love is. And that's where I think we all lacked of in our growing up. Even as a teenager, even as a young adult, we thought we knew it all. We thought we got this. You know, we rebelled against our family, against relationships. And even though we thought we loved, we didn't know what love is until we got older. And we got sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of going through, you know, hard relationships, of falling constantly, of bumping heads, of, you know, having someone mistreat us. Right. It wasn't until then that we started seeking the real love, which is the one that sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for us and resurrect for us. There is no greater love than that. You know, he loved us first. And if we can't learn from that love, how can we ourselves love ourselves and love others? The word says, you know, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. But if you do not love, right, your neighbor, I mean, if you don't love yourself, how can you love your neighbor? And the only way we can learn how to love ourselves is by allowing God to love us and for us to put God first. Because so many of us want that. We are so hungry for that love, and we look for that. For women, they look for it in men. You know, for men, they look for it in, let's be honest, in sex, which is not love. That's lust. That is so different. And so we need to know the difference between love and lust. We need to know the difference in, you know, love is not, you know, you made me hit you because I love you and I'm jealous. That's not love. Right. You know, or, you know, I love you after I beat you, but let me go buy you a gift. No, that's not love. But we need to teach our children, right? Because a lot of times our children be like, well, if you love me, you buy me this. Right. That's not love. But a lot of parents will say to their children, here, let me shut your mouth instead of disciplining you, and let me buy you this toy because I love you and I don't want to deal with the real
If you
issue.
do this, I'll buy you this.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not love. That's manipulation. We have to discipline our children with love. You know, I think that for a lot of people growing up, they have rebelled and been very angry and bitter. And I'm going to keep going back to this, you know, because it's something that the Lord has placed in my spirit. Rejection, trauma, and loveless. Not having that love of Christ. Not having that intimacy. Not, you know, coming together and listening to one another. We lack that in relationships. We want to just like run. We want to be like, I wish I could have been like Jean, just run for real, you know, and have like a, but I'm just saying. But, you know, everybody runs differently. We may run in the physical. We may run to food. We may run to addiction. We run to shopping. We run in different ways. I don't want to deal with this. Let me go to the clubs. Let me get attention somewhere else. We're constantly on a run. But it's because we're not having that love, right, that we want. Does that make sense, Esi?
Yeah, we're running to find something, find that love in other things than where it really is.
And running is not going to give you love. You know, like we had a guest speaker, and she said that for her, her love was alcohol because it didn't speak back. It numbed her. It made her forget her pain. So that was the only love she ever knew. And it didn't reject her.
Right.
And the alcohol didn't traumatize her. She was traumatized by not having love. She was traumatized by being raped. She was traumatized about people abusing her. But in her eyes, the alcohol loved her, didn't speak back, didn't reject her, didn't beat her. So that was the only love she knew. So we have to be very careful because for many of us, right, many people run to addiction because they get to numb that pain, right? And that's not love. And many of us are hurting. Many of us are, you know, not understanding what love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. Please understand, you can't be envious of one another. It's not boastful, saying, you know, I got a better job than you, or I make more money than you, or I look better than you. It's not being prideful. It does not dishonor one another. Let's honor one another. You know, let me honor you first. You know what I mean? Let me do this for you. Let me get up and make you breakfast. Things that I know that are simple, that you know that you love, right? Love is not about seeking for yourself. It's not easily angered. It doesn't hold the wrong things that we've done before. It does not delight in evil. And many people, when they're hurt, even though they think they say, I love them, but they hurt me, I hope something happens to them. That's not love. That's being evil. It says that, you know, love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes, and it always perseveres. Love never fails. Honey, I need you to stay here for a minute. Love never fails. The only love that can never fail is the love of Christ. He's the one that knit us in our mother's womb. He's the one that protects us, that watches over us, that forgives us, that never reminds us of our wrongdoing. And if he does it with conviction, with love. So that we don't continue to make the same mistakes. So that we don't continue to hurt. Because he loves us that much. You know? We're in our last minutes here. But Brenda, I'd like to ask you if you had any other thoughts on today's segment with Jean.
You know, it's just learning about the love of Christ that helps you really try to really know your identity in him, because, you know, God is love. God created love. God created us to love him so that he can in return, you know, he loves us back. And it's just understanding that love that he has for us that will help us get through those dark moments in life. Whether it's divorce, whether it's your child getting older, whether it's trauma or any abuse. God's love for you is what's really going to help you get through those times.
And it's really being able to understand how to open that door to receive that love. Because many of us have not been loved, right? And so we don't know how to open the door to receive that love. And we talked about that last week. Esi, what about you, honey? What are your last words here?
Actually, I have learned two things from our time with Jean. One is a reaffirmation of what I've already understood, and one is what I've actually learned. The reaffirmation is about like self-love.
Right.
When you say I love God, it means that you love. When you say you love somebody, it means you love everything about that person. Whatever the person says, does, it's just like you just love it, right?
Right.
So in that manner, if you say you love God, that means you love everything of God. And if you believe that you are of God, that means that love automatically applies to you. So hence you love yourself, and then you're able to give that love that you have for yourself to others, which is love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
Yes. And then secondly, love is servitude, is serving others. A lot of times we are always thinking, how does this person make me feel?
Right.
Instead of how do I make this person feel? And I feel like if both parties are, regardless of what type of relationship it is, if both parties are there to make sure that the other person feels good about the love they're giving themselves, it's a better recipe for success.
Right. It's being able to serve and love one another, honor one another, right? Jean, besides God, today, do you have another love in your life that you can say, yes, I know this is love,
Yes,
besides God?
I do.
Okay.
Besides God is my husband, and actually God showed me, when I met my husband, God said to me, this is how you should be loved. Because David didn't, he wasn't manipulating me, he wasn't, he loved me for who I am, my brattiness and all. He always calls me, you are such a brat, but I know that he still loves me.
Right.
And he'll put me in my place when I am acting like a brat and I'm not showing him love or I'm not honoring him. He shows me with love that I'm not doing that. And so, yes, and I'm very grateful for that love that I have.
Yes. Because yes, we are women, and yes, we are bratty, and yes, we are grateful to God, yes, we can all be bratty. My husband's like, oh, here, yes. But I'm grateful to God for, the gift that God has given me. And just so that, don't give up on hope. You can't give up on hope. And make sure that, my last word is make sure that when you're looking for love, to be able to know God's love first, love yourself, what is tolerable and what is not. And that's going to be another segment. But more than anything, what are the things that I want to make sure that are a solid foundation, so when I marry the husband that God has for me, we already have worked this out before we get married, so that our children don't have to go through what I've been through, and I've learned from what I've listened to others, right? So that is our hope for you today, that you will be able to learn that, get around a circle that is positive. Get around a circle that is going to help you. If you are feeling confused, depressed, anxious because you're not receiving love, if you're hurting yourself, if you're in addiction, if you're traumatized because you don't have love, if you're feeling rejected because you're not, feeling love, we're saying get help. Get around a circle that is going to be encouraging, that is going to be positive, that is going to educate you, empower you, equip you with the right positive. Not say, oh, no, you don't need to put up with this, just leave them. No, no, that's not it. I'm saying get some guidance, get some wisdom. The only way you can get wisdom is by reading the Word of God. Because anything that you want to know about love is going to be in the Word of God. So I want to say thank you for joining us this Sunday. I want to say have a great week, and we will see you next Sunday. Next Sunday is our last episode of Love. And I believe we're going to have another special guest speaker. And stay tuned. Continue to share. Somebody needs to hear what was said here, because I know it's going to be a blessing for all of us. I am your host, Michelle.
I'm Jean.
I'm Esi.
I'm Brenda.
And together we are one. Thank you. Bye-bye.